Hi guys, Unit 8, Lesson 13, Statistical Questions. So I am using statistical data to estimate information about a population. I can determine the percent of a population that's represented, and I can make inferences about a population based on the sample. So we're kind of going to be using the same strategies as we do with percents and ratios, and that's going to kind of help us out through this. So it says last month the hotel chain had 144,162 customers. The hotel chain randomly surveyed a group of these customers asking how many nights they plan to stay in the hotel during the next year. The results are in the table below. So based on the data, what is the most reasonable estimate of the number of customers who plan to stay in a hotel 6 nights or more? So 6 or more nights. That's what I want to know. So the first thing I'm going to look at is the sample. So I know that 6 or more nights, that would be 64 plus 22. So I end up with 86 out of a total. I have to add up all the people they sampled. So 85 plus 79 plus 64 plus 22. I get 250. All right, then they have their total customers, right? They gave us that information, so that's going to go in the total column. And if you remember from when we did this before, we divide going this way, and then we're going to multiply coming this way. So I'm going to put in my calculator 144,162, and I'm going to divide by 250. Then without clearing my calculator, I'm going to multiply by 86. And I get 49,591.7. So that tells me to round up to the next whole person, so 92. So I'm going to look and I'm going to hope that that's a possibility, and it is. It's C. All right, let's try the next one. So it says a restaurant manager surveyed several samples of 60 customers regarding their favorite breakfast juice. The average results of all the samples are shown below. So they did these samples, they averaged 60 customers. So that's what the number of customers is. They want to know which statement is true. So on average, 20% of the customers chose orange juice as their favorite. Well, let's try it. So orange juice is 18 out of 60. And remember, I put my whole as 100%. So now I'm going to divide going this way and multiply coming this way. So I'm going to do 100 divided by 60. And then I'm going to multiply by 18. And I get 19.6 repeating percent. So I think this one's right, but I haven't checked all the rest. So it says on average, more than 50% of the customers chose apple juice. Well, 25 out of 60. Well, 50% would be 30 customers. So this is kind of an exaggeration. So I'm going to cross out B. On average, 5% of the customers chose cranberry juice as their favorite. So I'm going to have to put that into my table and try it out. So I know I have 60 people that I asked. Cranberry was 5. And I know that I'm doing it out of 100%. So I divide going this way, and I'm going to multiply coming this way. So I'm going to do 100 divided by 60. And then I'm going to multiply by 5, and I get 8.3%. Well, that's not right. The last one says on average 20% of the customers chose grape juice as their favorite. Well, so I know I don't have to erase the 60 or the 100 because that information's staying the same. I just have to change the grape juice. So grape is 12. So I'm going to divide going this way and then multiply coming this way. So I'm going to do 100 divided by 60, and then I'm going to multiply by 12, and I get 20. So I get did I do that right? So I think this one's right. So now I'm stuck between these two choices. So I need to figure out, okay, what did I do wrong? On average, less than 20%, excuse me, sorry guys, less than 20% chose orange juice. So let's just double check that. And let's see if I did something wrong with my math. So I've got my 60 and I have my 100, right? And then I know orange was 18. So I'm going to divide and then multiply. I might have put the wrong number in my calculator. So 100 divided by 60. And then I'm going to multiply by 18. I got 30 that time, so I must have done a calculator error. So this one's definitely wrong, and D is correct. All right, so that's why you definitely don't want to choose an answer without checking everything. All right, which is true about the data collected from both samples? So we have 100 students were done in sample 1 and 100 students were done in sample 2. And it shows the data that was collected from 2 random samples of 100 students regarding their preference on field trips. So what is the same? So it says 25% of the students chose to go to the museum. Well, if I look at museum, those are 2 different numbers, so it can't be A. 27% chose to go because they want true about both samples. That's why I'm looking at both. 27% chose the aquarium. Well, that's not the same. 50% of students chose to go to the zoo or the planetarium. So let's check that. So if I add them together, I get, what, 59? I add these together, I get 42. Don't think that's right. 20% chose to go to the museum or the planetarium. So I'm going to erase this stuff. The museum or the planetarium. So when I add those together, I get 39. I add these together, I get 51. Okay, so let's try and think about this in a different way. Okay, well, I know that D is definitely not true because this would be 50%, so that's definitely not true. So I can eliminate that one. I know that 50% of the students wanted to go there. Well, that's not true because the second one added up to, what, 42? So I know D or C is out. So I need to figure out, what did I do wrong up here? Museum, well, that was a 12 and a 33. So that's not true. So 27% choose the aquarium. Well, if I do 25 plus 29 and I divide it by 2, I get 27%. Because I'm doing it out of 100, so I know that it has to be the same as the percentage. So B had to have been my answer. So it's not the same in both samples, but it's the closest. So when I'm doing these kind of questions, it's a lot like ELA. It's not going to be perfect. Which statement is true about Jacob's results? So Jacob took samples of 100 students to determine their favorite subject in school. So I know that the total is 100. Then I have to decide, less than half of the students chose math or language arts. Well, 25 plus 34, well, that's going to be 59. Less than half. Well, half of 100 is 50, so that's not true. 25% of the students chose science or social studies. Well, science and social studies is, what, 8 and 8 is 16, 26. So that would be 26%. So I think that might be close. And I can do percentages because the total is 100. 1/4 chose language arts. Well, that's right on the money. That's 25% exactly. And 1/4 is 25%. So I'm thinking it's C. Most students chose foreign language. Well, that's only 15 out of 100. Most students chose something else. So the reason I thought it might be B was because it was a close one, but C is definitely the right answer because it says 1/4, 1/4, and 25 is 1/4. So it should have been C. Don conducted several surveys of randomly selected groups asking students the number of pets that they have. Okay, so let's figure out the total. So that's 17, 18, 19, 20. So she asked 20 students. Which statement is true? So my total is 20. 45% of students have 3 to 5 pets. Well, that's 8 out of 20, and I want to get 100% because I'm doing it out of a percentage, so I want to do it out of 100. So I'm going to divide going this way and multiply coming this way. So 100 divided by 20, and then I'm going to multiply by 8, and I get 40. So I get 40% here. So maybe, let's keep going. It says 15% have 6 or more pets. 6 or more, so that would be 3 because the 9 plus people count. So I don't have to erase the other part, I just have to change the 3. So I'm going to do 100 divided by 20 in my calculator, and then I'm going to multiply by 3. Well, I do get 15%. So I think this one's more accurate than that one, so I'm going to cross out A, and I think it's B. More than half of the students have 1 to 0 pets. Well, half of the students would be 10 and only 9, so that's not true. Less than 1/10 of the students have 9 or more pets. So let's think about that. 1/10 is the same as 10%. So we need to check. So 2 students have 9 or more pets, right? So I got to check to make sure that's right. So I'm going to divide 100 by 20. And then I'm going to multiply by 2 and I get 10%. It says less than 1/10. So I need to reread that. Less than 1/10. Well, that's not true. It's exactly 10%. So it has to be B. All right, the next one says 2 samples of 126 people surveyed online, and they were asked which was your favorite flavored drink, and they were surveyed before or below. So 126 people were surveyed. Okay, so 2 samples of 126 people. So that would be 126 plus 126, which would give me 152 people. Okay, so more people prefer grape over orange. Well, grape and orange. So I get 71, and then over here I get 72. More people prefer grape over orange. No, more people prefer orange over grape. Grape is preferred 18 to 1 over cherry. So 18 to 1 over cherry. So if I'm looking at cherry, I have 4 that like cherry, and I have 71. No, oh wait, I'm sorry, that should be 72. I promise I can add 72 for grape. So I have to split this up and figure out, okay, if cherry is 1, what is grape going to be? So I'm going to do divided by 4. So I'm going to divide this side by 4. And if I get 18, I know that's my right answer. So 72 divided by 4, I get 18. So I think that's right. Cherry is preferred 26 to 1 over tropical punch. Well, that's not true. Tropical punch is preferred over everything. So 16 times as many people prefer orange over cherry. All right, so let's erase all this junk and let's try this one out. So 16 times as many people prefer orange over cherry. So I have 72 that want orange, right? 72 want orange and 4 want cherry. I know that it's 16 times, so I have to put a 1 here because I want to figure out 16 times as many people. So I'm dividing by 4, so I'm going to divide by 4 on this side. So 72 divided by 4 is 18, so that's not true, so it has to be B. All right, the next one says, Abe took several surveys of students to find out what their favorite subject was. The average of all the surveys is shown below. So I got to figure out how many kids I've got here. So I've got 38, and then I've got 52. So what? 90? So 90 students, if I added right. Okay, so on average, half of the students chose math. Well, half of 90 is not 29. Half of 90 would be 45. On average, 25% chose reading. Well, 25 out of 100, and I want to get a 90. So I'm going to divide and then multiply. So let's see if that's right. So 90 divided by 100. And then I'm going to multiply by 25, and I get 22.5. So more than 25. So it might be B because that's 23. So it might be. Let's try the next one. On average, about 1/3 of students chose science. So that's 1 out of 3. So 1 out of 3 chose science. So how many chose science? Out of 90. So I'm going to divide and then multiply. So 90 divided by 3 is going to be 30. 30 times 1 is 30. So I'm going to check science. I only get 20, so that's out. So now I'm checking the last one. On average, 20% of students chose social studies. Okay, so I have to, again, go back to 100. And it says 20%. So I'm dividing and then multiplying. So 90 divided by 100. And then I'm multiplying by 20, and I get 18. So it has to be less than 18. So social studies was exactly 18. It says less than, so it has to be B. All right, the next one says a principal surveyed samples of 50 students regarding how long their bus ride was in the morning. The average of the samples is shown in the table below. So on average, less than 20% of students have a 0 to 15-minute ride. So we're talking about 50 kids, right? So 100, and we have 20%, right? So that would mean that this is 10. But that's not true because that's 11 and it says less than. So that's not true. On average, more than 20% of students have a 46 to 60-minute ride. Well, that's only 5, and it says more than. Well, 20% would be 10 students, and this is 5. So B is out. On average, over half of the students have a bus ride longer than 30 minutes. Well, that's when I add these two together and I get 18. Over half of the students, so that would be 25. Well, half of the students would be 25, so that's not true. So we're really hoping D's right. On average, over 3/4 of the students have a bus ride between 16 and 45 minutes long. Okay. So that would be what? 34? So that would be 3/4. So I want to divide going this way and then multiply going this way. So 4 divided by 50 times 34. I get 2.72. So it's going to be D. It says over 3/4 of the students. So that's pretty daggone close. It's pretty daggone close. All right, the next one, it says the majority, which is true about the runners, the majority of the runners took between 20 and 25 minutes to finish. Okay, so I have to figure out how many total runners I have, so I'm going to add them up. So 12 plus 25 plus 38 plus 19. I have 94 runners. Well, no, the majority, that would mean over half, and 25 isn't more than half. 80% of the runners finished the race in 30 minutes or less. 30 minutes or less. So that would be 12 plus 25 plus 38. So that's 75 out of 94. So 100%. So I'm going to do 100 divided by 94 times 75. And I get 79.78. So I think it's B. About 25% of the runners took over 30 minutes to finish. Okay, so that would be 19. So I'm going to do 100 divided by 94 times 19, and I get 20. So that's not about 25, that's 20%. Okay, the fastest runner finished the race in 15 minutes. Well, it says 15:01, so that means they couldn't have finished it in 15 minutes. 15 minutes and 1 second. So it is definitely B. So the next one says, which statement is true? So again, I'm looking at this situation. And it says about 35% of students from sample 2 preferred comedy and science fiction movies. So comedy and science fiction. Oh, of sample 2. So I'm only looking at sample 2. Well, that's 35 out of 80. So I want to figure out what part of 100 that is. So I'm going to use my calculator. 100 divided by 80 is 1.25 times 35. I get 43%, so that's out. 20% of students in sample 1 preferred science fiction. So that would be 11. So 100 divided by 80 times 11. I get 13.75. So I don't think that one's right. About 40% of all students preferred horror movies. Well, that means I have to change my total to 160. Preferred horror, so that would be what, 65? So let's check that. So 100 divided by 160 times 65, I get 40%, so I think it's C. And then the last one, it says 25% of all students preferred action. Well, that adds up to 25. No, it doesn't. It adds up to 23. And 23 out of 160 is not going to be more than 25%. All right, so C is my answer. The last one I'm going to do is talking about cake. So this Karen collected data from her schoolmates about their favorite dessert. She took several random samples of 20 sample students each. The average of all the samples is shown in the table below. Okay, so on average, 14% of the students chose cookies. Well, I know that I have 100, I know 25, and I know that cookies was 7. So 100 divided by 25 is 4. 4 times 7 is 28. 28%. So A is out. B chose ice cream. Well, 13. 100 divided by 25 is 4 times 13. 4 times 13 is going to be 52. So that's out. 50% of the students chose ice cream. More than 50%. Well, 12.5 would be 50%. So I think it's C, but let's check D. On average, 10%, less than 10% chose chocolate cake. So let's check it. So I'm going to put chocolate cake was 5. So 100 divided by 25 is 4. 4 times 5 is 20%. So that's not true. So I was right. It is C. So your cool down today, you're just going to do what we've been doing. You're going to look at survey samples for students and their music. So it says they surveyed 60 students, and you're going to have to go through and figure out on average what kind of music they liked. Have a great rest of your day.